Hey guys, welcome to Sketch-A-Day. I'm Spencer, where every day during the week, Monday through Friday, I present to you a new drawing technique or tip or trick, whatever. And as we all know, hopefully you're not living in a cave, the new Star Wars movie is coming out. And I'm excited, hopefully you guys are too. If you are, you're going to love today's video. I'm going to be sketching a lightsaber. I've never done one before, but I've seen a few pictures of some, so I have a general idea of how they work and how they look. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm going to be using just pens and markers today. So if you want to get some materials, use the links below to help support Sketch-A-Day and get your materials. Also, just a reminder, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/sketchaday and on Instagram at sketchaday.com. To sketch a lightsaber, I need to think about the general structure. A lightsaber is pretty simple. It's a cylindrical object. And so the first thing I can do is draw an axis. Now I'm using a technique here, which is light till you get it right. And so to do this lightsaber, I'm using a 1% gray. Now you could use a 30% gray marker, but I'm just going to use a 1% gray here. A couple things to note: at the top of the lightsaber, the ellipse at the top is a little bit wider side to side than the ellipse at the bottom, and that's going to communicate three-point perspective arrangement of the cylinders. If you don't know what three-point perspective is, be sure to check out my video in my playlists. I think it's Let's Start with Some Basics, and you can check out the video talking about three-point perspective. That's a good place to start. So next thing I need to do is start to break up the design now that I kind of have the form for my design here. And so just proportionally speaking, I can start to break this up just a little bit. And so with a couple ellipses here and there, okay, proportionally just breaking that up. Next would be to start to add some details to the lightsaber. Now, looking at a few images, as I've been doing some research, lightsabers have a few different looks and feels. Disclaimer, I am not a Star Wars expert at all, so I'm just doing something similar to a lightsaber. And to do that, I'm just sketching an ellipse on the top at an angle. And now I can start to do some divisions. So this line is telling me that this cover is going to intersect this other cylinder on the inside. Okay, almost like this is wrapping around the outside here. And I've got this other piece that I'm going to curve like so. And if I just change the diameter of that ellipse, I can kind of get this little guard looking thing in here. And let's say I just want to tie the design together, connect those two, something like that. Okay, so I've got a little sheath, and maybe this is where my beam is emitted from my lightsaber. So by working light till I get it right, I can kind of knock out the details without worrying too much about affecting the final drawing at the onset here of my drawing, which is kind of cool. And let's say on the bottom, for whatever reason, you know, maybe these lightsabers need some sort of little strap here, or maybe this is the battery pack. I don't know. I don't know what the power source for a lightsaber is, but I suppose it is portable, meaning we would need some kind of light source there. All right, so to activate the lightsaber, I imagine you'd have to push a button or toggle of some sort, so I'm going to go ahead and sketch that in. So thinking about my cross section here, okay, I've got some little button detail, and because this is on the edge of the lightsaber, I can just sketch that in like I would any kind of profile drawing. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to sketch in here is some sort of grip, and this one's going to be a little trickier because I have to kind of vary as I move down the degree of my ellipses, okay, opening those up more and more. And that's always a little bit tricky if you're trying to do that. because you're just, you know, subtly varying the degree of those ellipses as you go from top to bottom. All right, so let's see. Looks like we've got our general shape kind of figured out. Now I want to take a look at kind of bringing out some of the detail. Today I'm going to use a tool that I don't usually use ever or at all, and that is a set of ellipse templates. If you're interested in getting a set of ellipse templates, I found some on Amazon. You can click the link, actually the link below, and they are a little pricey. So this set was almost $100 US, but I'm trying to see if I can personally improve my sketching by just tightening things up just a little bit more. So let's see where this ends up and where this gets us. Now, ellipse templates are cool. They come in sets that have varying degrees. If you don't know what the degree of an ellipse is, you can check out my video that covers degrees of ellipses, what that means, and how to sketch ellipses in perspective. And this will start to make a little bit more sense. But that being said, they do come in a variety of degrees. You can get different sized templates as well. It looks like these go from 1/2 inch to 2 inch in diameter. And fortunately for me, it looks like my sketch here is going to be, I'm going to be able to tighten it up using this small set of ellipses. Now I do have a larger set of ellipses. That's a lot bigger. It's a little bit more expensive, but I don't need to use it for this particular sketch, so I won't pull those out. So if you're interested, you can use the links below. Now, the trick here is just to kind of find an ellipse that works for you with the degree that you're sketching your sketch in here. So looks like my top is a little bit smaller than I want it to be actually, but that's okay. I can do that one in by hand. So in terms of degree, I'm just kind of eyeballing and seeing what works. So I'm going to start with a 15-degree ellipse at the top. And to darken this in, I'm not going to actually jump to my pen just yet. Okay, because I want to work from light to dark to pull those details out. So I have here a 30% gray marker. And with this, I can start to pull out some of the details that I want in my sketch, okay? And you can see, I mean, the way the human eye works, if you think about it, is we see in terms of contrast. So when we see something shiny or bright, you know, that's going to kind of command our visual attention. So by using this 30% gray, you can already see that we're starting to pull some detail out of this lightsaber. I had a little design detail on the end, but I'm going to cut that out because I didn't really like it after all. And we've got our button over here, like so. Alright, and some sort of grip detail. Okay, now I'm not too worried about these ellipses being totally perfect. Okay, and the reason for that is, again, I'm going to use my ellipse template when it's time to put my final pen lines on to get a more accurate representation of these ellipses. So for example, you can see here, I could use my pen to get that ellipse in when I'm ready. I'm probably actually going to use a 30-degree ellipse at that point. So, that being said, let's get a little detail or material change right through here, and maybe. Okay, we'll worry about that later. I had an idea, but I'm going to table that for now. Okay, so now I just need to pick out some materials and think about how I want to render or shade this. So I'm going to pretend that this is a nice chrome material here at the top and the bottom. So to do that, I need to have very strong reflective elements in my drawing to communicate the materiality of that piece. And so really it just boils down to picking somewhere on this thing that there would be kind of a strong core reflection. And the rest of this, okay, we're gonna have some strong highlights and reflected light as well. So I may go as far as shading in as much as that for now. And then on the bottom, I want to continue that strong core shadow and reflectivity throughout. So just pulling that down to the bottom of my lightsaber here. Right through here, I'm going to have a material change. Actually, I'm going to start my material change right about here. Okay, so this will all be that chrome metal with a little bit of a shadow, okay, cast by that step in the design. And so now I can start to really play with contrast and start to push that. So that was with a 30% gray, and now I'm up to a 50% gray. Now the goal here isn't to blend so much as it is to create some crispness here, because this is a shiny material. I'm going to have lots of crisp, defined reflectivity happening. Okay, so there's my 50%. Now I can jump to a 70%. So always work from your lightest lights to your darkest darks. And that's going to get you in a place. Well, it helps you not stress about your drawing as much, but it also allows you to kind of be thoughtful about what you're doing. Okay, it's just a little bit of 30% on the back side of this 70 here. And I may even come in, just to further push this, come in with a black marker at the end to further push the contrast in that area. So on this side, we also have an area of reflectivity where I may be picking up some sort of artifact. So just darken that up as well. Okay, so for this grip, I'm going to break with tradition a little bit, and I'm going to do a leather grip. I've always wondered why lightsabers don't have a leather grip. For you Star Wars fans out there, you probably know why there is no leather grip. Maybe it's against Jedi code to have some sort of leather grip, but personally I don't know. So I'm just going to roll with it. Alright, so I want to have a highlight on this side. So I'm going to try and keep my marker really light to this side. And over here, even though my core shadow, or rather that strong reflection, is toward the center on the chrome, it doesn't necessarily mean that my core shadow wouldn't be to one side on this leather piece. So I'm just going to concentrate my marker over here, and kind of where I had those ellipses transitioning, I'm just going to puff this out just a little bit, like so. Pardon the background noise if you hear my kids there. They are a little excited today. So, and we've been hanging out all week because it's Thanksgiving week, so in case you're wondering. Alright, a little bit of shadowing on the bottom side, where that is, right there. Okay, and now I want to shade in this top detail, and I want this to read more as a textured metal. So starting with my 30% gray, I already put some shadowing on the inside of this chrome piece right here, and we'll make this pop with some white pencil and marker work in just a second here. Okay, but I do need to get a little bit of a highlight right through here, and then start to shade from left to right. So 30% gray to 50% gray right through here, and I'm leaving the edge. Okay, so this is the edge of that chrome piece right here, leaving that edge a little bit dark, because is I'll come back in and hit that with some pencil to make that pop as well. Okay, and just some gray where this switch or trigger would be, and keeping it nice and fresh, light, somewhat abstracted. Okay, that kind of just helps with the freshness of the overall sketch. Hit this again, and then on the top, I actually just made a mistake here, but I'm gonna work with this. I'm gonna say that instead of, you know, being a kind of angled feature here, we're gonna work that into our design, and this actually is kind of turning out cool. So sometimes as you sketch, your mistakes end up being pretty cool features for your design. So again, one of the advantages of working light till you get it right is you can make your mistakes kind of work for you. All right, so we'll go a little bit darker on the base here, through there, and on the inside of the top, like so. I'm going to add some shadowing in here. The other thing I want to do on this leather bit is just add some stippling. I did this with one marker. Ideally, I like to use multiple markers if I'm shading something, but just keeping it nice and fresh, you can still get that sense of gradation with one marker if you're kind of quick with your stroke and application. So, and it kind of depends on the marker too, honestly. Some markers you can get away with this blending technique where you apply some marker, wait for it to dry, and then apply some more, and then other markers don't do as well. So part of it might be I just got a little bit lucky here, but in any case, adding some stippling to this. Okay. And now I'm in a place where I feel like I can add some line work to the lightsaber to kind of help pull and pop this out a little bit more. So that being said, I'm going to use a pen today, and again I'm going to use my ellipse guides to kind of help me in certain spots. So let's see if we can find one that works for us. I'm going to try my 25-degree ellipse here. It looks like I have a pretty good match on the bottom of this piece. It's not perfect, okay, but close enough that I can kind of start my ellipse and tweak a little bit. So as I go through this kind of tightening up phase, I'm actually going to speed up the video just a little bit and you can see what I'm doing, but that's the general gist. Is take your template, whether it's a ruler or your ellipse guide, apply it to your sketch, and methodically just go through and tighten things up. Okay, so at this point I need to add some more shadowing and a few more details, but hopefully you guys can kind of see what I did there to beef this up and pull some of the details out. Also, I want to kind of crisp up this main reflection here. And so I grabbed a C9 marker I'm going to use, and just using the edge of my ellipse template here. Now, if you use a straight edge with markers, you want to make sure that you don't pull the edge, but rather lift it up instead, because what happens is, as you use the marker on the edge here, you get some ink that goes underneath your template. And so if I were to just pull that away from my sketch, I'm going to get a little bit of smearing or smudging. So that's why I'm trying to be careful and actually lift instead of just drag as I'm doing this, okay? But something like this where you've sketched your concept out and you just want to crisp it up, it actually just helps the whole drawing feel a little bit tighter, if you can have some element or elements that are a little stronger and more defined, okay? And that's just, again, one of those things where the brain will pick up on the finish level of a few things and the tightness of a few things, and then use that, almost extrapolating it out to the rest of your drawing and communicating to the viewer that your drawing is a lot tighter or cleaner than it actually is. So just a little trick that you can use if you're sketching something and you want it to feel a lot tighter. Okay, and I need to add some more shadowing in here. Just for sake of simplicity, I'm just going to assume that the inside of this is perhaps coated a little differently than the rest of the lightsaber. So that way I don't have to map out all the reflections here. But I do want to have some contrast between the lip of the inside and the emitter for the lightsaber. And the reason for that is where I have a change in surface direction on an object or material, I need to have some pretty good contrast at that point. Okay, so now that I'm to this point, I'm going to take a Sharpie, okay, and just kind of work the outside of the drawing a little bit. So similar thing on this long edge. I initially did this freehand, but now I'm just going to take my Sharpie, clean this up on the outside, and for the smaller spans I'll still do that freehand. Okay, but just that long stretch on the emitter section for the lightsaber, I wanted to make sure that I had some really good execution on that line, because again, that's going to carry through the rest of the drawing. So on the one side I have a heavier line weight, on the other side I have a slightly lighter line weight. I'm still going to use my Sharpie. Now I've taken my pen and I've rotated it up in terms of the angle, which is going to give me a finer line even with this bullet point Sharpie. So with a Sharpie you can get some pretty decent variation in your line weight if you're careful, and if you modify and adjust pressure as well as you're drawing with your Sharpie. I just want to add some shadowing under here where I have this almost lip. Okay, just like that, and just to push it a little bit more, use a 70% gray. So now we know that that's an actual material change. Same thing here. I just want to darken this up just a hair so that contrast reads even better. So now the next step is I'm going to take my white pen here. It's a Faber-Castell white brush pen. Well, artist pen rather. And on this edge on the top, okay, I want this to have some really good contrast. So just using that to lighten up the marker stroke that I had. And also add highlights where I just need a pop to show reflectivity or shininess. Okay, and it especially works well where you have a nice dark color next to a light color. It shows up especially well. Don't be afraid to mix media as well. In other words, I have some pencil here and I can use that to then further push my shadow cores that are happening on this chrome section, and even just crisp up on the edge what's happening there. And you can even use your pencil on its side like so to then push that core shadow a little bit more, or do things like hint at a little bit of an edge or lip at the top and feather out from that secondary reflective element. I can use my pencil as well here to push the shadow core on my leather grip area, which is gonna help it feel a little rounder. Okay, maybe a little more comfortable, because if you're fighting the dark side all day, a little comfort wouldn't help, right? It wouldn't hurt, rather, right? So with some pencil over my pen line, I'm actually varying the line weight. I'm using a Prismacolor Premier pencil. It's black. And this way I can do things like vary my line weight right in this area, right here. Kind of hard to see, but zoom in and you can see just that little variation in the thickness of the line right where I have that shadow core is going to help these feel a little bit rounder, okay, as I'm drawing these through. Alright, and as always, one of the hardest things when you're drawing is knowing when to stop, okay? And I think I'm coming up on that place where I need to just stop and move on. So let me just get one more thing in here, just a little bit of shading. Just push that contrast. Okay, I'm good. Well, thanks for watching, and that's how I would sketch a lightsaber. Think about the general geometry of the form and kind of break it down into functional parts, and then go ahead and add your colors, your textures, your contrast, and so forth. And of course, think about your materials as you're drawing and sketching this. Hopefully you guys are as excited about the movie as I am. I'm really excited. I don't know if I'll go opening day, but I'm really excited to go check it out. So if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe to my channel here on YouTube, or go to youtube.com/sketchaday.com if you're watching this somewhere else. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/sketchaday, or on Instagram at sketchaday.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time right here on Sketchaday.